Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. In just a few hours, the January 6th Select Committee will be presenting their the first of 5, I believe, programs, presentations about what they had discovered through all the interviews they've done and all the investigation they've done into the events that occurred in the insurgency, the attempt to overthrow the 2020 presidential election. Okay, well, it'll be a very interesting report to see. Although most of us have seen the majority of it, and some people are the Republicans that are being interviewed, including Fox News. Basically, Fox News won't even cover it. So we're looking at more of it doesn't look like it's going to heal the divide. And that's what I'm going to talk about now. David Brooks, in his today's article that he published, said that the January 6th committee has already failed. And after looking at all of this information, why would he believe that it already failed? And in a way, it's true that they've already failed. And so that's what I want to talk about, is how to look at how this is happening and unfolding. Based on the idea of something I've talked about for a while, and that is the World Peace Marketing Strategy. This is just the overview brochure of it. But what it does is the battles of Armageddon are raging. The schism that has formed has separated people into 4 different groups. The people who stand on principles, the people who focus on power, the people who are focused on their life, and the people who function for their own interests. Okay, if you look at each of these groups of people, it's like a total disconnect between the 4 of them. But then the parties are, the groups are schisming also. So you have like the Republican Party is focused on power, but then you have Liz Cheney, who's focused on the principles of power. Well, so it keeps separating down, and then you have the people who are grabbing for power, and so there's the split here. It comes down eventually to the individual level, where sooner or later everybody stands on the principles of something. They might have to stand on defending themselves from their lives, or they might have to, it just comes down to the point where you can vote on something too. That is where you can stand on principles too. Let's say the Democratic Party has always been kind of like, we're here to do our jobs, you voted for us, we're here to represent you in Congress, things like that. The Republican Party is more focused on power, on money, power equated ideas like money and power, military might and power. And while the Democrats are looking for a diplomatic solution because they don't want to send people into war, the Republicans basically are focused on the Constitution and patriotism and things like that. People whose lives are affected, they probably are not even aware of what's going on or care because their lives are there. And they don't come in until their lives are affected. And then there are people who function for their own interests. If you ask them the question of who has what you want, they're always 180 degrees from where they think they are. When you look at, as I said before, if you look at Donald Trump, he's 180 degrees. If you ask him who he wants, who has what he wants, he will look at, he will say Vladimir Putin. You can bet he would say Vladimir Putin, and the reason for it is because Putin has intelligence. If he wants a Trump Hotel Moscow, if he wants to become president again, he relies on the Russians and the intelligence and to be able to do that. That's where you could say that the idea of treason would come in. Now, I'm not saying he's committing treason. That's not up to me to do that. But if you're 180 degrees from where you think you are, how about Judas and Jesus? Judas was trying to get him to have a secular agenda, and basically what he did was he wasn't able to force Jesus into the idea of, let's say, raising an army, using his power to raise an army to separate himself from the Roman control of their land. The thing is, Jesus eventually, all the teachings, and what happened is over the years that it helped to undermine the Roman Empire by not raising an army. It would be very difficult to raise an army that would be able to fight the Roman Empire. So let's say God is able to come up with a plan that benefits everyone, and then the Romans eventually embraced Christianity and the teachings to the point where it became the Vatican is in Rome. So, and not far from the Colosseum, where the early Christians were crucified or sacrificed, you could say. So going back to the world peace marketing strategy, this focuses on unifying people again. I believe that when the select committee introduces their information, the people who stand on the principles will be very interested in it, and it'll probably bring in the third group, some of the people who are interested in finding out what it's about, but their lives really haven't been that affected by it. They can vote and they really don't care. They're not out knocking on doors and things like that to get their popular candidate in. They might not even know who the candidates are if they're not informed. But so if another way to look at this, as I said, is if you have a father who's working late in a family, and the mother is let's say a trophy wife, and she's worried that he's having an affair, then he stands on the principles, and then she goes down into the power games and maybe goes to extended family, the fourth row people, for help, and then they create kind of a coalition between them, an agreement between them that they're both going to control this guy up here, and then the kids are dragged into the crisis. So this would be like extended family. Now, the thing is, for everyone, God makes it possible for everyone to create their life. The one thing that everyone wants in the world, every person on the planet, no matter what, would like to create the life they've always wanted. And most people, if they can't figure out how to make it happen, eventually that's when they die. So nobody's really overcome death yet. Although in the Bible, people live to be up to 800 years old or so. So, and that's because they had information like this. They were working with God at that time to introduce new information, the chosen people, you could say, for a period of time. So the top row people in this world peace marketing strategy, basically they're going through and they're working to create a solid foundation again. If this coalition is occurring between the people who are grabbing for power, people who've gone down into power games, Armageddon, the rapture, one person stands on the principles and goes up. Two people are sitting in a field. One goes up and the other is taken, and this one is left behind. So if you stop to consider the one who's standing on the principles is going up by standing on the principles, assuming responsibility, doing things, but then it's really hard to overcome this coalition between the people who are grabbing for power and the people who function for their own interests. So the Republican Party, you could say, a vast amount of it is headed away from our country and the democracy and is fighting. And then you have the people like the fourth row people who are basically starting the rebellion. The people who have been arrested and they they basically are 180 degrees from where they think they are. They're listening to, they function for their own interests. They started a rebellion. This is the time when it's possible because of this schism that has happened. So the world peace marketing strategy is like 4 gates or 4 doorways that you can walk through. This group up here, the top row, there's a group of a series of steps that they take to help them get a solid foundation again. If the father has been driven out of the family and the mother is holding on to the child, excuse me, and there's this coalition of people between this group here, and the kids can't defend themselves from the parents. We're seeing that with the children who are being dragged into the pandemic. This is why the pandemic occurred. You could say that people were standing on the principles and other people grabbing for power. How about the average people in China who are being in lockdown and they're angry because of all this conflict that's been going on? Okay, and the rise of authoritarianism, the people who function for their own interest to line their own pockets. So these are like four paths that can be taken, and each of them get their life, you could say, on a higher level. The top row, they're building a solid foundation again, and then based on the Flower of Life pattern, they're invited into a project that allows them to apply their talents and gifts in such a way that benefits everyone. Like if they're driven out of their job, or their home, and they're defamed, and then all of a sudden they need a job, then they can join, let's say, a nonprofit organization and apply what they know to that. They're invited in to participate in, let's say, our project ideas in our organization. Then what happens is then after they are part of that, then they go down here into the second row. It's a 2-row thing. It's, let's say this row is a very long row. Then they go through and they start to build a solid foundation, financial foundation below them, under them. This row here is for the people who focus, the second row is for the people who focus on power, who've gone down into the games. This row, this allows them to understand about the power games, how they work and why they don't work. Not necessarily looking at revenge, but looking at the idea of how each of the religions teaches one principle on how to create the life you want, but it also plays a favorite power game. So you were looking at the games, the power games on all of these levels, and we're looking at how they prevent people from getting their life. By understanding these principles, it's not that our organization is working to force people along a certain agenda. We're teaching people how to create the life they want, why what they're doing isn't working. We're advising people, like in our government, about the failed policies. The third row is for the people, it's like the people whose lives are affected, and the children, this is kind of like the children's re-empowerment classes, and the people who just would rather stay home and they keep getting dragged into conflict all the time and they don't want to be part of that. The fourth row is a very short row. Basically, they're looking at how the games create a series of cycles, 3 cycles around, and you have a failed state. You could say that a country like Somalia or Yemen, and some of those areas right in that, the Gulf Coast right in that area, are becoming failed states. But at the same time, the United States is also becoming a failed state if we don't pull out of this. So this world peace marketing strategy overcomes the effects of the power games and the starting with intolerance and then leading to oppression and losing your rights and losing your freedoms, and then it goes on and each time it goes around a circle, this is like a circle, each time it goes around a circle, then the crisis gets worse. If there is a battle between a husband and a wife, the husband is abusive, and then she stands on her principles, and then it becomes a flip-flop effect where then if the wife or the husband is there's a hit contract out on them, or poisoning or murder of some sort, or the wife takes the children and herself and they drive into the river or something, a lake, and she drowns them. Everybody, that's kind of like a drastic way. When people start dying, that's the third row around. So the whole idea is to start to understand how this works. So the Republican Party is going to be in an interesting situation here coming up, depending on how Donald Trump is reacting to this. In Fox News, we're already seeing that the Fox News doesn't want to broadcast anything related to this. It's for people who basically don't want anything to do with them. They're kind of drawing in the independents, the people who don't know, and that's why how Trump how Donald Trump is staying in power is because he's holding on to that idea, and why Biden is coming down, because his policies are not unifying the country. He's not addressing the idea that, hey, everybody's speaking a different language, so to speak. Everybody has different goals. That when the Republican Party says that they like at the beginning, Mitch McConnell said that he thought it was terrible what had happened, and then they changed their goals. They're looking at power and how it's going to work. Part of it might also be the idea of Roe v. Wade, how that plays out, the Dobbs at the Supreme Court level, how everybody is reacting and responding over the next the primaries and things like that. This is a very volatile time right now. But I'm going to tell you, probably the most important thing you can take out of this is that this is the way to solve the problem. Now, that takes us back to the very beginning of this whole idea. What I'm responsible for is the exit strategy for Iraq because of character defamation campaign, hostile takeovers, revenge, how it works and why it doesn't work. My organization has been going through a hostile takeover, a character defamation campaign. That's why it's taking so long for this to occur, because so many people are functioning for their own interests and have created an agreement between the people who are grabbing for power and the people whose lives are affected. This is playing out now in the world, and our organization has the solution, but we also have to demonstrate it in our own lives to prove that it works. But what we're going to do is, instead of taking on the Republicans and the Democrats, we're going to take on and work with the exit strategy for Iraq, which means the books will come out, the professional books will come out, and the professional publishing team will work with that. And then we're going to go to Oxford and Stonehenge, and we're going to have our event, our conflict resolution, our unification idea. Instead of President Biden sending millions and millions and millions of dollars and billions of dollars of aid all the time to Ukraine to stop Putin, and Putin is threatening nuclear, and people are moving Russians are moving into Cuba, and out here there's the torpedoes, and they're starting to look for Russian submarines to protect. How do you protect that? The best thing for us to do is to address this idea of the world peace marketing strategy. Understand that everybody wants to create the life they want, and it fits into 4 groups to make it happen. There's actually going to be another group, and that is attached on the bottom of this, and that is another row, and that is the children that are being born now, who are basically they're totally unprepared. People in my generation were the ones who were supposed to bring peace, world peace. The next generation, like my son, is supposed to maintain it. His generation is programmed to maintain it. The next generation is to live in peace, and then the next one is to not just live in it, but to live in it, and they're programmed for it. So they're very vulnerable. And I'm going to share with you just one thing. Vladimir Putin has conscripts, and they're walking away. They're deserting, and they're walking away, and they're testifying, and it's like they're not programmed. You cannot force somebody from that generation to wage war, even lying to them and telling them they can do that. It's people in my generation and possibly coming down a little bit into the next one, kids who are programmed for war. Those are you can't force those kids to do something, no matter how much principles there are. They're not programmed for it. They were not programmed for peace. So you like Vladimir Putin expecting his armies conscripts to do that. If you back somebody into a corner and say this is the only job that there is, then they'll go in there. But they're not. Their hearts are not into it. You cannot lie to them and expect them to understand. If you back them into the corner, basically those kids are just going to die basically and go on and say hell with this. Okay, I'll come back in another lifetime and I'll deal with it then when those grown-ups get their act together. Okay, so now we're going to separate the group again into these groups with the three groups. The older generation, we were raised on power games, and we think they work, and we can't tell they are or not, and our families are being divided up because of this. So let's say we're standing on principles, and the kids are going, that's not the way it is anymore, Mom. We don't do things like that anymore. We can't do that. I can't. No, Mom, he said. And then, so it's all of this division and separation. But the one thing that everyone wants is to be able to create the life they want. And that's the point where we start working together and making things happen that function to benefit everyone. I'll tell you what, the kids will come back when into your life when you start standing on the principles that everybody has the right to create the life they want and nobody has the right to interfere in that. That's my letter to the Supreme Court. I introduced that. But now what we have to do is we have to purify the legal system, and the world will be a lot better off when we do that. Okay, so don't expect any major changes in anything. David Brooks was right. There's probably not going to be a lot of change. He's wise enough to recognize the fact that the Republican Party there's this disconnect there between the two parties. And the disconnect is called the battles of Armageddon. Armageddon is happening here. Another way that you could say that it happened is if you compare this to the American Revolution, and you had let's say the Sons of Liberty who stood up on the principles, but at the same time nobody else was ready to come into the revolution. They didn't recognize it as revolution. The second group of people to come in were the people like Hamilton, and he wasn't, you could say he wasn't one of the Sons of Liberty. He wasn't John Adams, Sam Adams. He wasn't the people who basically were there to recognize that the Stamp Act and all those different oppressive actions by King George III of England, basically it wasn't going to work. Okay, you couldn't convince King George III because he was functioning for his own interests. There was no way to convince him that to allow for independence because he was out there to make money from the colonies. He was out there to have a voice. He was out there to compete with the other people in his peer group, which were the royalty, European royalty and such. So the American Revolution went through the same ideas. So instead of calling it the American Revolution, a movement goes through the same schism idea, like the American Revolution movement. It was a movement. We are now in the world peace movement. The people have divided into groups. Armageddon, this is the end times, and it's divided up into the whole thing. The end of the cycle, we're letting go of what we don't want, and we're figuring out what we do want. So that's where we are now. When you watch tonight to find out what it is, watch to see the principles that they're standing on, the principles of democracy. What happens if the Republicans and Trump and his group of people, because he's at 180 degrees from where you think you are, if you start to recognize the people who are principles, power, life, or function for their own interests, you can see that where they are holding on to the people they don't need, and they're letting go of the people they do need. What happens if they're holding on to Trump, and Trump is oppressive to the people, and so how could an elected official not consider his constituents the best? And it's because of the illusion that's being woven. So we're looking at power games, we're looking at all of these different ideas here. Now, you can go on our website at oneworldgov.org in the World Peace Marketing Strategy and find this. And you can look at all of these ideas. I'm modifying it. I'm still working on modifying it and I have to come up with the classes in our crisis center. That's the second one. I have to work with somebody, and right now the group of people who function for their own interests are keeping everything apart. They're doing whatever they can to prevent world peace from coming, probably because they don't recognize that world peace is possible. They've gone down the power games. They're functioning for their own interests. They've created this group of people here that's weaving the illusion. And now this, like I said, this helps to unravel the illusion so that everybody can create the life they want. This is a very, very fascinating brochure, this chart right here. And if you look at it on there and you look at the power games, you look at the project ideas, I'll keep on putting them up there, but I really need to have the next person to come in to help me create the crisis center and the classes and everything associated with this. Right now, I'm the classes are very comprehensive. They even involve possibly getting divorced from the people that you're married to, going through a divorce because romantic attachments, people are married for the wrong reasons. So there's going to be this group of people that have to go through this before they can actually go out and become teachers, and be around the people who actually have the same goal, and start to create this invention. We go through the inventions, we go through life partnerships, how they work and how they function on a higher level than romantic attachments, the conflict resolution brochures, things like that. You can get a lot of information just off the Tracker Progress World Peace Marketing Strategy and out of the reference menu. Okay, so that's all I wanted to talk about today. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe because this information is important, especially to the people who are trying so hard to get their life. The young people pretty much are programmed for this already, and they'll be so happy when grown-ups from my age actually stop playing the damned power games, if you excuse my expression, because that's what they are. They're damned power games. They're called the 7 deadly sins. And the Catholic Church, we'll go into the Catholic Church in future videos, and how through exorcism of demons and the taking on the fierce classes, which are, you could say, are part of this too. So we'll talk about that later. I ask you to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.